The events of the final day of filming stunned a lot of people. The Love and Hip Hop set was reportedly totally wrecked by the most violent event in the franchise's history. At first, Kirk Frost and the men engaged in a furious debate that quickly got out of control. Despite his best efforts, young Jacques was unable to quell the chaos. Rashida's clap back at accusations that no one expected caused the production team to halt, flip furniture, and knock over cameras down immediately. It was too late, but the story has it that Mama Scott was there and shouted for the actors to stop. What ought to have been a happy wrap turned into a full-scale chaos, complete with damaged gear, damaged pride, and rumors of now. Fans are curious about what really happened. What secrets were exposed that drove the performers to their limits? And why the network is keeping quiet? But there's no denying that this is only the beginning of the most incredible incident involving Love and Hip Hop. Started out innocently enough. Everyone was looking forward to Love and Hip Hop Atlanta's final day of production, which was supposed to be a celebration because the drama had reached its climax and the gang had finished another season, closing and taking a holiday. But nobody was prepared for what would happen that day. Kirk Frost and Mund, two guys whose anger had been boiling for months, began the conversation amicably. It was intended that their dispute would be settled in front of the few, foresaw the intensity of the next argument. But cameras were set up for a spectacular, terrifying finish. It began as a simple argument over a Menzies comment on Kirk's parenting. But it quickly spiraled out of control. Who had persisted, retorted that he was not qualified to criticize Menzies' previous errors. Things began to go wrong at that point. Menzies, already tight from the pressure of the season, lost his passion and charged at Kirk, pushing him with all his strength, his face red with rage. Wendy Smith, Mendesk's wife, finally stepped in to stop her husband after weeks of fighting to maintain order, but her attempts were unpleasant as she screamed at him. The event was caught on camera by his force. But what transpired next was even more startling, as things were spiraling out of control. Rashida, the voice of reason, sought to bring Mendesk down by telling him, "This isn't the time, babe, stop it," ought to intervene as well. But instead, she made things worse by shouting at Kirk, "Don't let him do this. Show some self-control." Kirk got angry and screamed back at her, "Don't tell me what to do." Rashida and Yandi tried to calm the resulting commotion, which was a blur of accusations and jeers. But it was clear that this was now more than just a little argument. It was personal. Kirk and Yandi were shouting at each other, their faces inches apart, when there was a huge smash that reverberated around the set. It was obvious that the crew was upset and unsure of how to handle the intensity of the incident. The scene that followed was perhaps more disturbing than the argument itself. Kirk, in a fit of wrath, shoved a hat pushed over a piece of the set, sending a mirror flying across the room, and Men's 2 was seen in red. Since no one had ever seen Love and Hip, the entire stage appeared to be a battleground, shocking the crowd. Although drama has always been present, it was at an entirely new level. The scene had gotten too intense, so young Jacques, who had made an effort to remain quiet throughout the season, abruptly intervened and went up to Kirk and Menzies to try to soothe them by putting a hand on both of their shoulders. The DCs pushed him away after he said, "This is between me and Kirk," and advised him to keep his mouth shut. It was clear that this was real and raw and no longer about the show. Despite the fact that the crew was at a loss for what to do and the producers were desperately trying to figure out how to stop the pandemonium, the franchise's creator, Mona Scott, appears to have witnessed all of this chaos. "We didn't mean for this to happen," witnesses said, and she was heard yelling at the actors and staff to stop as the argument heated up. What ought to have been a moment of closure turned into a full-scale meltdown that split the ensemble and destroyed the set. Despite security's intervention, the scene male's DCs were disorderly, was led off the stage still yelling and furious, while Kirk Frost remained in the middle of the chaos, appearing as furious as Jan Dandy, who was obviously shocked and finding It's difficult to understand what had happened. Meanwhile, Rashida was spotted hurrying away, murmuring to herself that this was meant to be a celebration rather than a disaster. On social media, fans voiced their shock by posting, "Did you guys see that fight on Love and Hip?" The battle was dramatic, but so was the fallout. Jump rumors started to spread. According to one, "This is a whole new level," and another, "I thought the drama was scripted, but this is real. They really went at it." Following this confrontation, some cast members were thinking about permanently leaving the show, according to those close to the production. In a private conversation, one cast member allegedly said, "The network, meanwhile, scrambled to manage the fallout," some reports claimed. Despite their best efforts to hide the magnitude of the damage, fans started sharing videos of the destruction. Behind the scenes online, once the truth got out, shortly after the season finale, the reunion special was supposed to run. But the producers were frantic to save what as the season was coming to an end. They began considering how they would handle the fallout in later episodes. Would they choose to ignore the altercation or take it on head-on? It was far from over for Rashida. Kirk, Yandandi, and the other DC actors were left to deal with the fallout from their failed romances, both on and off screen. According to reports, MenDC and Kirk were so tense that they might never work together again. Others claim Yandi considered leaving the show to save her family's reputation, but decided it was no longer worthwhile. Claimed that the fans were divided and that the cast members weren't the only ones impacted. Some fans claimed that the drama was what made Love and Hip Hop so gripping, while others were horrified by what had happened, and requested that the network immediately stop airing the show since it was unentertaining. As the last day of filming approached, everyone was curious about what would happen. Would this terrible tragedy be the end of Love and Hip Hop, or would it just send the show in a more sinister direction? One fan said, "It's just exploitation." The cast, crew, and fans waited for the next incredible twist of events as the cameras rolled and the set became silent, but the drama was far from over. Fans, staff, and cast members were at odds with one another. This was different. The explosive eruption that had been connected to hip-hop and love. What had started out as a simple quarrel swiftly escalated into the most heated argument in the show's history. This time, it went beyond the drama of the film. After his furious altercation with Mency, Kirk Frost, who had been at the heart of the debate from the start, made it plain that he was not going to back down. Among his statements was, "I'm not afraid of anyone, and I'm sure not afraid of men." Kirk had been acting more oddly lately, and many who knew him well realized that he wasn't simply depressed but also attempting to take charge of a world that looked to be spiraling out of control. The fact that his voice rose in irritation and that he was clearly egotistical only made it worse. His wife, Rasha, ended up in the middle. She had always brought harmony to their marriage, but now that Kirk and Mindy's disagreement was beginning to negatively impact her family, things had changed. Having witnessed the mayhem firsthand, she found it difficult to support her spouse, while also she confided in a close friend. "I just don't know how to fix this anymore," in a very passionate tone. "I never meant for it to go this bad. But every day it seems like things are falling apart." Yet the one strong tie in Rashida's marriage was becoming more and more obvious, she said, since she and Kirk were displaying signs of strife behind closed doors. Rashida, who had always been the more sensible of the two, had begun to question whether marriage was worthwhile. Even she admitted that there were some obstacles that were too big to conquer in the he said to a crew member during a break. "I came in here to show my family's journey, but all we've gotten is drama." Because of the chaos on set, women felt more alone and men were less willing to forgive or forget. He passionately declared, "This isn't real, and I can't be part of it anymore." In addition to Kirk, the entire production system that had allowed things to spiral out of control was the target of the attack. "We didn't sign up for this." The stress of the situation was starting to wear on Yandandi's wife, who had always supported the Manx, no matter what. Though Yandi couldn't deny that she had built an empire on hip-hop and love. She told a close friend that she was done and ready to give up everything. I don't blame him. This isn't the kind of atmosphere we want for our children. And leaving was not an easy choice. The show that had given her the opportunity to tell her story was now the one. That threatened to ruin her family. She had to choose between staying on the show and running the possibility of disaster, or supporting her husband and giving up everything she had worked so hard to achieve, sobbing. Yandandi said, "I don't know how we got here," adding, "I thought we were creating something lovely, but now I'm not sure if we'll survive this at all." As the producers desperately attempted to keep the conflict under control, in the process, Yandandi lost her husband. "We can't let this break the cast apart, not with the finale coming up. We must control the situation," one producer was heard saying as it became clear that Love and Hip Hop's painstakingly constructed image was beginning to unravel. Need them to be family, not adversaries. Yet, despite attempts to reconcile, the cast's disagreements were only becoming worse. The growing animosity on set obviously distressed the typically upbeat and joyful young jock. "I just want to get through this without all the fighting," he added, expressing his displeasure with what I had promised. "We're supposed to be a team, a family, but it's like everyone's out for themselves now." Additionally, he asserted that when emotions rose, even Jock, who had always served as the show's mediator, had his limits. Social media was inundated with responses from fans who had previously reveled in the highs and lows of their favorite celebrities. Many of them insisted that the show be kept separate from the drama by staying silent and avoiding the heated debates that had become the standard. Some fans expressed amazement over the cancellation, tweeting, "This is ridiculous." Another fan wrote, "I can't believe the drama these people are creating. This is not what we signed up for." The creators of the show were in a difficult situation, where they had completely lost their way since they had deviated from the fundamental idea. This isn't reality anymore. It's just a bunch of people pretending to be something they're not. The mediator's job was to facilitate a group gathering so all of the cast members could air their grievances and perhaps find some common ground. The mediator was engaged as a last resort to try to resolve the problems among the cast members. But as the meeting began, it quickly devolved into, "We are here to correct the record, not to make amends," Kirk stated, cutting the mediator short. His obstinate manner makes it clear that the injuries were too great to be healed by a lighthearted discussion. Other cast members expressed their wrath in a variety of ways during the meeting, including, "I don't care about the show anymore," which only served to fan the flames and intensify the altercation. The cast members were candidly talking about the toll the program had taken on their lives, and they were no longer bound together by their shared experiences. As one actor put it, "At this point, we're all being played, and it's just a paycheck." It was then that the producers realized they were in the middle of a disaster. Another cast member stated, "It was supposed to be our ticket to something better, but all we've gotten is drama, and we're all paying the price. We can't continue like this," one producer said. And the group's extreme conflicts, along with growing fears that certain members might not return for a second season, threatened to ruin the cultural phenomenon in the latter days of the show. The cast had to face the uncertainty of their futures. Was this the end of an era, or would they be able to move past their issues and continue the Love and Hip Hop story? As the days passed, the cast members' emotional toll became inevitable. What had begun as a dramatic argument had now evolved into a full-fledged personal crisis that impacted each of them individually, putting the production and the relationships that had been so crucial to its success in jeopardy. However, the famous lightning rod Kirk Frost found himself in the center of the chaos. And no one, not even the producers, could have foreseen what would happen next. "The violent altercations have far-reaching consequences," he kept saying. "I'm not backing down from anyone, especially not Menzies," as tensions between the two guys increased. And many observers took that statement to be significant. However, as the days went by, it became evident that Kirk's conceit was, he had a gut feeling that he had overreached himself, and the consequences were still being felt. Rashida was struggling to keep her cool behind the scenes. Her mother and wife had always been the ones to keep the peace, but even they couldn't deny the strain this disagreement had put on her family. "Kirk is pushing everyone away, and I can't keep pretending like everything is okay," Rashida said to a close friend as she paced back and forth in her dressing room. Her voice quivering, exposing the vulnerability beneath her normally calm exterior. As she dealt with the fallout from her marriage, one of the more moving stories on the evening was the couple's love story, which had always been a favorite among spectators. Things had gone out of control, and Menth and Yandi, who had usually been calm, were now juggling their own personal problems. "I came here to show the world our adventure and avoid getting caught in this situation after a particularly challenging day of filming, even though I didn't sign up for this men's event." Collected was obviously upset. He finally felt the need to express his thoughts after months of stress, and one evening, he did just that to Yen Dandy. "All of this is excessive." Yen Dandy, who had always been the supportive spouse, tried to comfort him by whispering, "We've been through worse, darling. We'll weather this storm as usual." But even Yen Dandy, who had seen Mengsti, began to question whether they would still be on the program during his most trying times. "I can't keep pretending like everything is fine," she told an acquaintance, "because men see that he's done with this, and I don't blame him." Nothing could have prepared the audience for what was about to happen with every second that went by, even if the cameras had captured many moments of pure passion over the years. This isn't the life we envisioned for our family. What began as a simple reality program turned into a high-stakes game where people's futures, relationships, and reputations were at stake as the struggle intensified, and no one, not even the show's producers, could control the drama. "I never thought it would come to this," he continued with a frantic voice. But the level of hostility that had taken over the set shocked young Juk, who was known for his humor and laid-back demeanor. We're all meant to be a family. Even though he had always been the group's unifying factor, Jock understood that the producers, who took immense pride in creating the drama that viewers desired, had reached a breaking point. "It feels like everyone's turning on each other." Suddenly, they were struggling to get back in control. A producer warned a number of colleagues, "This show is going to fail unless we figure out how to mend the rifts. Can't keep pushing these people to their breaking point." Despite efforts to resolve the dispute, the producers had to determine whether the show could continue or if it was too late to repair the damage that had been done. In addition to bringing fame to love and hip-hop, the drama was clearly negatively impacting the participants' personal lives as things deteriorated. The cast members, who had previously been united by their shared experiences, were now divided by an ingrained animosity that seemed insurmountable. "This isn't fun anymore." During a break, one cast member told a crew member, "We're all just going through the motions, but no one really cares about each other anymore." The once cohesive group had been shattered, and the cracks were only growing wider every day as tensions rose and Kirk's actions became more unpredictable at one point. Kirk's cheeks flushed with anger, and he said, "I'm not going to let anyone tell me what to do." Kirk's rejection of males had only served to stoke the conflict's fires, and his actions were beginning to reflect that. Even the cast and staff of Men's were nervous after hearing his comments, which reverberated throughout the set. Kirk was clearly more than simply furious, and no one knew how to stop his breakdown, while Rashida had to make a difficult decision. "I don't know what's going to happen next," she muttered softly, "but I can't keep living like this. I need peace." She was torn between leaving her husband and remaining with him. She had always been Mendesi's pillar of support, but even she was beginning to question how much worse things could go. She was clearly distraught. No one seemed able to give her the assurance she so desperately needed. It was clear that any choice she took would have a significant impact, because she was grappling with the program's drama and how it affected our family's path. "I don't know what's worse," she told herself as she sat alone in her dressing room. Long-term effects on our marriage, career, and future. In addition to the performers, the show's devoted viewers were beginning to express Their concerns on social media, with viewers appalled by the growing drama, posting remarks such as, "This is too serious," with comments like, "This isn't the Love and Hip Hop I used to watch. It's just a mess now, and they're tearing each other apart for a paycheck." And it's sad to watch. Many viewers have flocked to Twitter to vent their frustration at the show's changes over the years. The producers frantically tried to figure out a solution to save the day as the fun got closer. Would this be Love's final stand, or would they be able to mend the broken relationships between the cast members? As the players prepared for the final day of production, there was a noticeable sense of anxiety. It was uncertain whether the actors would be able to come together for one final time to survive the finale, or whether the show's future or its stars would be surprised. Tension on the set had never been higher as the final day of production approached, and the once close-knit gang of Love and Hip Hop wondered if they would break up or if their relationship issues would be too serious to overcome the show's fate in the first place. Each member of the cast was battling their own emotions and conflicting loyalties, and it was evident that the drama that transpired on set would leave scars that went well beyond the cameras. Instead, the cast was a dysfunctional family. His normally placid demeanor had been replaced by a fiery aura. And with each hour, his temper grew shorter, his outbursts more frequent, and his disobedience of the cast and producers more fierce, as if he were on the verge of losing it. During one of his many heated arguments with crew members, Kirk said, "This whole situation is a joke. They want to paint me as the villain, but I'm just speaking the truth." However, his comments were full of Kirk. One of the most surprising characters on the program was obviously struggling, and his internal turmoil had reached a boiling point. And despite his bluster, the gaps in his armor were expanding, and it was difficult to anticipate how far he would go before collapsing, as the last day of filming loomed over her like a menacing cloud. Rashida confessed, "I don't know if I can do this anymore," as if the emotional toll of the drama had pushed her to the brink. And his own feelings were now exploding out of control. "Kirk's actions are breaking my heart." One evening, she remarked to Yandi, "I thought we were stronger than this." Yandandi, the listener, concurred, barely raising her voice above a whisper. Even Yandandi wasn't sure how much longer she could hold it together. "And she acknowledged that you've always been the strong one, Rashida. But I understand." Rashida was clearly under stress from handling the show's chaos and being caught in the midst of her husband's downfall. His dissatisfaction with the matter had been growing for some time. But as the final day of the drama drew near, Menek, who had been mostly quiet until the height of the crisis, was engulfed in an emotional storm and found it difficult to balance her loyalty to Kirk with her own health. As the shooting got closer, he told Yandi, "I can't keep pretending like everything's fine," adding, "This is too much. We didn't come here for this. I came here to focus on my family and my future, not to be dragged." Yandandi, who had always supported male venture capitalists, responded, "I hear you, baby, but let's just get through the finale and then." In reference to this circumstance, their time on the show had been full of drama, and as the cast got ready for what was about to happen, it became clear that their relationship with the show and possibly with each other might never be the same again. "We'll work things out," but even Yandandi knew that the damage had already been done. The last day should have been a happy occasion, but the mood on set was anything but. The producers, who had worked long hours to maintain the drama throughout the season, now had a much more difficult task: how to deal with a situation that had grown out of control. One producer whispered to another, a bit alarmed, "We've never seen anything like this before," adding, "This is bigger than just reality TV, this is real-life fallout, and we can't predict how it's going to play out," because the set had turned into a pressure cooker with every interaction tense and no one knew whether the final day of filming would end in a dramatic resolution or the start of even bigger fallout. The crew, used to the constant ups and downs of reality show drama, was now walking on eggshells. Jock who is always the joker and peacemaker, tried to lighten the mood as they prepared for the final shoot. But even his signature sense of humor couldn't overcome the obvious tension. "Man, this is getting out of hand," he said to a fellow cast member. "I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope we make it. Through this without another fight. My heart can't take much more of this," was his amusing attempt to diffuse the situation. But as the cameras rolled and the actors gathered, the distance between them grew even greater. The producers, who had been waiting for the season's last scene to end well, were caught off guard by the commotion that ensued when Kirk, who had been unusually calm all day, suddenly lost his temper. "I'm done pretending," he said, his voice echoing over the set. "This is all a game, and I'm not playing anymore." Rashida, obviously stunned by his outburst, tried to intervene, but Kirk interrupted her with this. After years of battling the demands of notoriety, Kirk now appeared to have given in to them. Yet below it all was a tangible sense of agony. She pleaded, her voice dropping off in desperation. "Please don't do this now. Let's just finish this and go home." But Kirk would not have it that way. "I've had enough," he replied, turning to the team. "I'll give you drama if you want it, and don't expect me to play the role of someone else anymore." The rolling cameras captured every moment, but they failed to capture the devastation in Kirk's eyes, the man who had been so confident just days earlier. The room fell silent, the tension so great that a knife might pierce it. Means, who had been watching the event from a distance, approached Kirkman, who seemed to have transformed. The stress of the performance, his disagreements with Mendisk, and the breakdown of his wife were all too much for him to handle. As a last act of defiance, Kirk declared, "I'm done with all of you. Get it?" he added in a quite composed tone. "But this isn't the way to manage it. You don't have to do things alone because we're all dealing with our own challenges." His statement, "I don't need this show and I don't need any of you," caused chaos on the last day of production, and the producers immediately stopped the cameras since they weren't sure how to keep the show going. Situation in which the performers, who had previously been a family due to their shared experiences, where suddenly the future of love and hip-hop seemed more uncertain than ever as the actors left the set. Their features were a mix of exhaustion, anger, and agony, and the concert that had made them renowned was now only a dim memory. One thing was certain, though the relationships that had been built on it were in ruins. No one knew what the future held. It's reasonable to say that the cast would never be the same again because that was the most turbulent time in hip-hop and love history. There were physical altercations, dishonest betrayals, and an emotional roller coaster. Despite the shooting day, the show's future is now uncertain. And everyone was shocked and divided. Everyone is curious as to whether this is the end and what the future holds for these stars. Path for the crew, including Kirk, Rashida, Menzies. Or are there other? We're curious about your thoughts on the upcoming drama. Is Mindy's decision to leave the set on the final day of filming the right one, or should Kirk have taken a different course of action? Let's see if he and Yandi can work through this, or if their romance is ruined. If you think this is one of the greatest, please let us know in the space provided below. Dreadful incidents in romance and hip-hop history to make BDS star IB relevant. We have more amazing stuff to share. So stay up to date on all the latest rumors and behind-the-scenes drama. Watch this emotional roller coaster to see what happens next. We'll see you in the next.